All right, you're a pucker player and you're looking to add tongue block techniques to your sound. You're not alone. Most of today's great players, present company included, started with pucker and then became aware of tongue blocking and have been adding more and more tongue blocking to their playing over time, to the point where now I tongue block everything. The only time I'm not tongue blocking, me personally, is the high blow bends I'm still working on in my tongue block. I can do up to 9 pretty comfortably, and the 10's a little tough for me once I hit an A harmonica. So most of the time I'm tongue blocking that, unless I have a higher harmonica and I'm just not quite sure if I can get it yet. But within time I'll be able to get it. The first hole, I'm still kind of in a transition stage myself of puckering the first hole. I'm right now starting to get used to doing more tongue switching. Why? Because I think it sounds a little bit better. And that's why I teach my beginning players from the very beginning tongue blocking and tongue switching on the first hole and blow bends. Again, if you learn that way, it's not hard, it's just the way that you learned. But you and I, and again, almost every other great player, started in a pucker, and we need to struggle with where do we use tongue blocking. So let me give you the simple facts. Here's what you're going to commonly do. You're going to pucker holes 1, 2, and 3, tongue block hole 4 and above. Now context will change that, but that's a general rule of thumb. So anytime you're bending, you're going to stay in your pucker because that's what you've developed to this point. And then once you hit your fourth hole, you're going to go ahead and tongue block. So for example, if I play 2-draw on my C harmonica, you pucker that. I'm going to play a 3-draw dip. Well, that's a bend, so you'll probably feel more comfortable doing that in a pucker. And once you hit the fourth hole, now you switch over to a tongue block so that you can get that slap or an octave. And a lot of times a pucker player first becomes aware of tongue blocking when they hear octaves. They can tell something different's going on and they cannot match that in the pucker world. And the fourth hole is the first hole that you can do octaves. So that's where we tend to make our switch to tongue blocking. So I'm at the 4-draw, tongue slap, then 5-blow, and 6. And again, I'm slapping because I want the tone that comes from those slaps. So 2-draw pucker, 3-draw dip pucker, switch to tongue block, 4-draw, 5-blow, 6-blow, slaps. So that's where you're going to commonly be making the switches. What about if you're playing bass lines, for example? So if you take a look at the solo study, or solo harmonica study 1, you're seeing a 2-draw and then a pull, and then a 3-draw and then a pull, and then a 4-draw and then a pull. Well, those are tongue block techniques. So you'll actually do your tongue blocks all the way down to the second hole, but there's no bending involved, is there? So if I slap a 2-draw, then I pull, then slap a 3, those are all tongue block technique sounds. So you might as well tongue block that all the time. So again, it gets down to mostly where bending is happening on the harmonica. Now, a general rule of thumb is that the more advanced you get, the more and more you're going to incorporate tongue block into your playing. And at a certain point, most players reach a point, and this tends to be maybe 3 or 4 years within their playing, or even shorter if they really have done their homework, where they start to find that there's issues with switching, where there's certain passages that you just can't play, especially if you're copying someone else who's 100% tongue blocker. And at that point, they start to incorporate bending into their tongue block playing. The way that I did it is that I started using tongue block bending on holes 6, 5, and 4, which were easier for me. And then over time, I started adding bending on the third hole and the second hole to the point where I ended up tongue blocking everything. So now I tongue block everything. I will still pucker the 1 sometimes. I'm still getting used to that tongue switch for the first hole. And if I'm on a higher harmonica, that 10-hole blow bend is a little bit more challenging for me in a tongue block, so I'll switch to pucker. And again, that just means right now. Eventually, I'll get used to that. And again, if you learn it that way, then it's not an issue. But that's why you're coming to me in this video, is to say, I've already started my skills in pucker and I want to add tongue blocking. And again, why am I adding tongue blocking? You're adding tongue blocking for the textures that tongue blocking offers, the slaps, the pulls, the octaves, all those good things. So just think about adding those techniques to your playing. Think of it as a tool. You don't have to abandon your pucker playing, but within time, little by little, you're going to add more and more tongue blocking to your playing because it's just more efficient and in general the tone is better.